Caregiver warrior Susanne White is our guest today. You're connected with the Heart of Hospice. I'm Jerry Finter, here with Helen Bauer.
Whether you're a family caregiver or an end-of-life professional, we're here to enhance your hospice experience by connecting you with information you can use about end-of-life care. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at GrandPad. Do you have an older family member who's isolated, or do you feel disconnected from a senior loved one who lives at a distance? The folks at GrandPad have come up with the perfect solution, an easy-to-use device that connects older adults with family and friends using video chat, email, photo sharing, and more. Visit grandpad.net for details. This lady's a firecracker.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. And you might not sense it in the podcast that you're about to listen to, but I tell you, being on a video chat with her, you could sense it easily.
Of course, in the South, that's what we call a woman who's got some sass and energy. She's got a lot of energy.
She does. She does.
Yes.
And for good reason, too. She
Yes.
is a passionate advocate for caregiving and caregivers and those who are being cared for by caregivers.
Right. She knows a few things because she's seen a few things.
That's right. Exactly right.
Our guest today is Susanne White. She is the founder of Caregiver Warrior. She was blessed, as she refers to it, with the opportunity to take care of both of her parents. And she ventured into a caregiving journey that she said changed her life forever. She blogs about it on her website, caregiverwarrior.com, shares her experience, her strength, her hope, and her humor with others so that they can survive caregiving, not just with the basics, but with grace and empowerment and thriving at the same time. You can find her on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and you are going to love our conversation with Susanne White.
Susanne, we are so glad to welcome you to the Heart of Hospice podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this all day. So it's a lovely, lovely, lovely day for it.
Well, to get the conversation started, I have an icebreaker question for you.
Shoot.
If you could have your dream pet, any pet that you wanted, what animal would you want?
I have my dream pet. I have a rescue from Puerto Rico. He's a street dog from Puerto Rico, and he was my dream dog, and they flew him up to me.
Oh,
seriously?
Frederico from Puerto Rico. Yep.
I love that. How often can you say you have your dream pet? That's nice.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
And there was a wrong answer, by the way.
Oh?
Oh, yeah, because if you had said that it was a cat, we might have had to stop the interview.
That's hysterical.
We're going to get all kinds of mail about cats
Yeah,
now.
somebody's going to. Please don't send me any ugly comments. I'm a dog person. I'm very sorry.
Oh, that's funny.
I've had my share of cats. So Fred's a nice change.
There you go.
I like it. Frederico from Puerto Rico. Perfect.
Susanne, we're so glad to have you on here. Tell us about your journey as a caregiver warrior.
I was just thinking about this today. So many of us, I don't know why this is, but I took care of my parents and other family members. But if you had told me I was going to be a caregiver, especially to my mom, I would have thought you were crazy. And even when it happened, like my parents were older, they were in their 80s. I don't know, my sister and I don't know what we were thinking. They were doing really well. But they started working together to kind of hide my mom's, they worked together to hide my mom's early stages of dementia. So I came to the caregiving journey rather quickly because my dad, this World War II bombardier pilot who was shot down and survived and landed the plane, was taken off a plane because he was so sick when they were flying together down to Florida to meet the family because he was burnt out as my mom's caregiver. So it was sort of like an instantaneous kind of, oh my gosh, Dad, are you okay? Can I help? And he said yes really quickly. I was sort of thrown into it because all of a sudden I realized they needed help and they could no longer take care of each other the way they were used to. And, like most caregivers, they didn't think about it, didn't question it. It's so often like it's not like like make a pro and con list. Am I going to take care of the people I love? You just do it. So I sort of jumped in caring for my parents because I was geographically closer. My sister and I are very close, but she was in Michigan. And I was near my parents. So I just said, well, look, I'll help out in any way I can. And I'm going to fix this and take care of it. So that started the caregiving journey for me with my parents.
A lot of people talk about they transition into it. It's just a natural thing. You start picking up groceries, you help with the housework, the yard work, things like that. And they move into it where it's a slow burn. And then one day you realize, man, this is 50% of my time that I'm not at work, but it sounds like for you, it was a sudden transition from an acute event or a very sudden event.
Yes.
Were you startled at your mother's need for help? How much did your parents hide from you?
Well, they had been hiding, and we kind of look back for like almost 2 years, so it was sort of like the frog in the pot, and that just that just sort of sits there and they turn the burner up really slowly. I think we part of it was denial. I think that we're thinking that it was just normal aging, but they were kind of hiding it for almost 2 years. So when my dad got really sick, to a point where he was like sleeping most of the days when he was recuperating from burnout, we noticed my mom was really confused and repeating herself more than normal, and I think she was agitated by the fear of something happening to him. So to be really honest, and I think this way for a lot of people, I wasn't really thinking about any of it. Do you know what I mean? I was just sort of gearing myself up to take over. I can handle this. I'm going to fix it and make everything okay. I think that what surprised me down the road was that I couldn't handle it and that I couldn't fix it and I couldn't make it all okay. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I'm a type A control freak personality. So, if you need a fixer in the room, I'm your girl. So it was natural for me to just assume I could do this perfectly and I could do it by myself. So I was less taken aback in the beginning than I was when I sort of hit caregiver burnout. That's when I was startled that, oh my God, why do I feel this way? That's when I got concerned.
So what was the biggest challenge for you personally as a caregiver for your mom?
For my mom specifically, because we didn't get along at all. The biggest challenge was just trying to get the two of us in the same room together so that I could help out without screaming. I mean, she literally was screaming at me one day in the kitchen. I'm laughing about it now and I'm smiling because I get through a lot of stuff with humor, and my humor helped me, but she was literally standing in the kitchen one day screaming at me that she didn't want my help and go back to New York and get out of my face. I mean, it was not pretty. So the biggest challenge was, for me, was figuring out what I needed to do and how I needed to change, because she wasn't going to change. And what I needed to come up with and how I needed to change my life or my attitude or my behavior so that we could have a pleasant journey as opposed to a knockdown, dragged out fight every day.
I think that's a situation that a lot of caregivers find themselves in is, those relationships weren't great to start with.
Yeah.
And they're reluctant to become a caregiver, but they feel obligated, or maybe there's no one else, or like you, they're geographically positioned to be the best choice for a caregiver. Or maybe there's just nobody else that can help or is willing to help. And then they get put into a situation where there's some resentment. I'm going to be here to care for you, but I really don't like you all that much, and we haven't gotten along all these years. There's a lot of emotional baggage that people have when they come to a caregiving situation.
Yep.
And you think that was a challenge for you?
It was an absolute challenge for me. I always say if you're hysterical, it's historical. So absolutely. And that's sort of my wheelhouse now around caregiving, is that I think a lot of us have emotional baggage where we have to care for someone, that we grew up with, or that we have baggage with, or we are taking care of somebody who reminds us of someone that we have baggage with. Um, I absolutely want to communicate to caregivers that are hysterical, because it's historical, how I navigated that journey, because it was really tough, for me to deal with someone who had, who was as afraid of, who could make me angry at the drop of a hat. I always had to have the last word. I mean, one of the reasons I'm so fast and so quick and funny, actually, is because of my mom, because we were sparring constantly, especially when I was a teenager and in my 20s. So I had to come up with a lot of tricks and tips and strategies, to get through that. And quite honestly, there is an extraordinary pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because the great gift of that for me was I healed my relationship with her. I mean, the universe gave me an extraordinary opportunity to heal a part of my soul that I had no idea I could even get to, or that was there. And we had an incredible time together. And I feel really great about my mom, and I can't even bring up memories about the bad mom. I just remember the good mom.
So your advice to people who find themselves in that situation is to just, hang on and believe that it can get better?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've actually had people say to me, I had one good friend who had to take care of her father, who she had a very hard time with. And she said, I don't know that I can show up. And I said, please listen to me. I promise you, if you show up for this and you do this, there's going to be a piece at the end of this that you would never have had you walked away. And when he passed, she said to me, I cannot thank you enough for telling me that. And I listened to you, and I have such peace now because I healed my relationship with my dad. I mean, we got to places we never got to when I was a kid. And that's the gift. And it's not easy, and it's not pretty, and it takes a lot of work. But oh my God, it's so worth it.
Well, and I would say it probably doesn't happen for everyone.
True.
So your relationship with your dad and your caregiving relationship with your dad, was that a lot different than what you had with your mom?
Absolutely, because he was, a different type of personality. He was a very easygoing guy, um, and very gentle, and I mean, funny. I mean, he could give you the razzmatazz, but he communicated his appreciation to me, how much he loved me, how grateful he was. He was down with the program, whatever. He was an incredible patient, um, and just an incredible guy. So it was a completely different thing. He actually said to me at one point, I really understand you now. I really see how you tick, because I see how you're handling this. He said, I never really got you before this. So it was interesting, so I had quite an amazing experience with him too.
Wow.
And I just want to go back for a minute, because I when you say it doesn't happen for everyone, and I know that that's true. And I know that there are, horrific, I know sometimes there's horrific history, and I know there's traumatic history, and people who do step up to take care of those who have hurt them, deeply. It's very, very challenging. But I really do believe that there's an opportunity for most of us, to heal that a part of us around that history and trauma, if we really show up for it. So it takes great constitution, and it really takes bravery. But I do believe if you have patience with yourself, and with the people around you, you can get there.
Is there something you found profoundly meaningful during the time you were caring for your parents?
Yes. I mean, I became a much better me,
Oh, explain that.
Well, there were things there were patterns of behavior. There were things and beliefs that I had, that I had to just get rid of. I mean, I've always kind of been self-aware, tried to be self-aware, but in caring for somebody else like this with this kind of history, I had to really look at me. In other words, I had to sort of I had to look in the mirror, and I had to, because they weren't going to change. So I had to figure out how I was going to change. And I really threw some really bad behavior patterns out of the window. I mean, because I had to. I could not survive this with the grace that I wanted to if I remained stuck in some of my bad defense mechanisms and my habits. Just wasn't possible. Oh, yeah.
Very interesting.
And I think that's an important lesson, because if you're coming to a caregiving situation, you're not going to change the other person. That's not the goal.
No.
Right.
No.
So if you want to change the interactions, you have to change your own responses, your own attitudes. You're right. That's not an easy thing to do, but it can be incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, and it's very serious work, and it's hard. It's hard to do it while you're trying to give service to other people. But absolutely, I mean, it's something that just makes us, and it makes us better caregivers. You know, self-awareness is a really key thing for me around caregiving, whether it's physical or emotional or spiritual. Self-awareness is really key, because if I'm not aware of what's going on with me and I don't honor that, how can I honor what's going on with them?
Today's episode is sponsored by the team at GrandPad. They recognize that older people can be intimidated by technology. GrandPad is created to be easy to set up and effortless to use. The device allows for email, games, music, and photo and video sharing. When you live at a distance from an older loved one, GrandPad is the perfect way to bring everyone together for the holidays. If you're looking for a holiday gift for someone who has it all, consider purchasing a GrandPad subscription. GrandPad comes with 4G LTE cellular service already included, so there's no need for Wi-Fi. Creating a family network is as simple as sending an email. The company has built a platform that empowers seniors of all ages and technological skills to safely connect with family, friends, and caregivers. No spam, no robocalls. As part of the private network, you can share your photos and see what other members of the network are sharing. My mom has a GrandPad, and she loves seeing photos of her grandkids and great-grandchildren. GrandPad can keep your family connected for the holidays and beyond. You can find more details at grandpad.net. Now back to today's episode.
We've talked to a lot of caregivers through the years on our podcast. I think you're the first one that I can remember who actually said this helped them improve their self-awareness and actually throw out some of their bad habits. So for you, it sounds like the caregiving experience, although difficult, of course, was in some ways almost like a season of growth for you in a personal way.
Character building.
Yes, character building.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's kind of what my message is. That's kind of what I want to convey to everyone, that this is an opportunity, you know? And if you look at it, and as anything in life, a challenge, I think, is always an opportunity. And you know, it's not easy, and sitting in pain is not easy, but you have an opportunity to understand your relationships and understand your life and how you are in your life, especially when you're serving other people. Because, you know, if you don't take care of yourself, or you don't find a place where you have self-love, how can you be the best caregiver that you need to be? You know, and it's not, you know, I went in trying to fix them. I couldn't fix them. I was there to walk them home. You know, there's a beautiful saying, you know, we're just walking each other home. I was there to walk them home. And I had to learn that fixing them was not my job. You know, I mean, and it's all the best intentions. Anybody who shows up, and I believe, this is my personal belief, even people who show up to caregiving reluctantly, and I know there's a lot of us, a lot of people out there, you show up. So if you're showing up, there's something about that service that makes you special and makes the people that you take care of special. And we can't lose sight of that. And you have to look at yourself and go, wow, I'm a really good girl, or I'm a really good guy. I'm safe and I'm a really good person. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities to get to know ourselves and the people that we're caring for.
That's true. A lot of life lessons. So let's touch on one of those life lessons. You referred to this earlier, being burned out, which is so common with unpaid personal caregivers. It's a job, a thankless, unpaid, horrible hours, stressful job. So what did burnout look like for you?
I have a very specific burnout story, which I just love. So one of the things I did was I surrounded myself with other caregivers and people who had been through it. And that's that's like tip number one. Get your tribe of caregivers. And believe me, they're out there. I found caregiver friends in the supermarket, like in the grocery line. Like I'm taking care of my mom. Oh, I'm taking care of my dad. Okay. So I surrounded myself with caregivers that were really there for me, and that we could share stories. So I woke up. I was at my parents' apartment, and I woke up like at 4 a.m, and I was physically shaking. I mean, I literally, my heart was banging out of my chest. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was shaking. I was crying. I was beside myself, and I knew I was going to die. I knew they were going to die. I knew I couldn't handle it. I knew that I was going to kill them somehow, that it was too big for me. I mean, I was just beside myself. And I picked the phone up, rule number 2. And I called someone and said, I can't do this. I'm freaking out. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And I carried on for like 10 minutes. And she said to me, get out of there. I said, what? She said, get out of there. She said, you're scheduled to come home today anyway, right? I went, yes. Because, get the pills done. Are they safe? Are they good today? I said, yeah, they're great. And the pills are all done. I did them last night. And she said, okay. She said, so tell them you're going to leave a little early. Call you if you need you, and get out of there as fast as you can. So I said, okay. So sure enough, I went and got them, I had done the grocery shopping. I had done the pills. It was all set up, and I was scheduled to leave at maybe 5 or 6, but it was like maybe 11 o'clock. And I said, hey guys, would you mind, I'm thinking about maybe getting, back, getting back, the traffic might be, oh, that's perfect. My mom said, please, I worry about you in the traffic. My dad said, oh yeah, Soupy, yeah, why don't you go? And yeah, that's great. I got in the car, and my friend had said to me, when you hit exit 4 on the turnpike, you're going to feel better. I was like, okay. I hit exit 4 on the turnpike and I felt better. It was amazing. And I said, how did you know that? And she said, I've been there. She said, if you can, and it's safe, when you're that bad, you have to get away from it. And next time, don't let it get that bad. That's the lesson. The lesson is, don't let it get that bad next time.
Well, that goes back to your self-awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the first big road sign. Work on your self-awareness.
And we all need a friend, that one that you call that says, I've been there, I've done that, and I can tell you I'm looking at you from the outside. This is what you need to do. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your caregiving is to step out of it for a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you don't think you can. You think the world's going to end, and you never think of it. It's like, I can't do that. So that was a really big moment for me, as far as my burnout went, getting in touch with it, trying to, make it less when it happened again, understanding, that I'm not thinking straight, and perhaps I should just remove myself for a little bit. That was a big, big lesson. And we all get burnt out,
I wonder sometimes if we associate stepping away from those responsibilities as some sort of failure to cope with what's going on.
Of course we do.
But it's completely overwhelming. And if you become overwhelmed, that's completely normal.
It's all normal.
It's a hard job. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very hard job, and it's all normal. Guilt's normal. Anger is normal. Fear is normal. Anxiety is normal. I mean, it's all normal. And I think that's what's so sad about the whole thing, is that we take on this perfectionism and this gotta fix it. I'm infallible. I'll do it alone. I'll do it better. It's this, I mean, who made a rule? There's no caregiver rule book. First of all, there are times when perhaps we're not at our best. However, there's no rule book about how to be a good caregiver.
Right.
If you go in if you show up, you go in with good intentions and a good heart, and you do the best you can, you're a miracle worker. That's period.
Right.
So let's say this: burnout does not equal failure.
No.
Burnout is not any indicator that you have failed at your job.
No. It may be an indicator that you failed taking care of yourself.
Right.
I mean that, in other words, I won't say a mistake, but perhaps there is something you could do a little bit better. It's
Right.
an indicator that, first of all, we're all going to get burnout. It's just part of the territory. It's how long how it does it bring it to our knees, or does it sort of like we're going to all hit the wall. Are we going to hit the wall at 120 miles an hour, or are we going to hit the wall at 20 miles an hour? And I think the more that we can talk about ways to hit the wall at maybe 15 miles per hour instead of 150 miles per hour, I think that's the conversation.
And it would be different if it was just physical.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that. It's easier to identify your body gets tired, you need to sleep, you need to eat, that sort of thing. But it's psychosocial, it's spiritual, it's mind, body, spirit. And so burnout's complicated, and I think it is hard to see it from the inside.
Yes, it creeps up on you. It's a very, and it's sort of like an enemy. And it's a very sneaky enemy, and it's sort of, it's doing, push-ups in the living room, and you're in your bedroom. It's waiting for you, and it does creep up, and again, it's going to happen to everyone. And what we want to try to do is be more aware of how we feel emotionally and spiritually. And physically, so we can sort of see the signs, the road signs a little faster, and maybe not have it hit us so hard.
Yeah.
Right. When you look back at your caregiving experience, and I think everybody does this, was there something that you would do differently? I'm not saying, you look back and say, oh, I regret this, but
right.
Just look back and say, okay, I wish I had done this differently because it would have been better in some ways. Is there anything that you look back on your caregiving experience with some insights that you would share with us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I absolutely gave myself such a hard time. I really tried to be perfect all the time. I tried to control everything all of the time. I was a helicopter caregiver in the beginning. I didn't give any of us enough time to transition into the role changing. I was way too pushy in the beginning. I was trying way too hard in the beginning. And to this day, I still try to be perfect, and I still try to control everything. I wasn't as vulnerable as I was at the end. And I really was hard on myself. Those are the things that I would do better, but I know better now. You know better, you do better.
Right.
And that's why I constantly want to get the message out to new caregivers. Like, go easy, just go easy. All you have to do is show up. You don't have to have the answers. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just show up. And you'll grow into your shoes, that's a really important message for me, because I think so many of us with such great intentions we set these high standards for ourselves, and it's dangerous, and it's hurtful. It hurts us.
Yeah. You talked about how you want to get this message across. So one of the things that you've done is start an organization called Caregiver Warrior. So tell us more about this. This is really very interesting. Tell us about Caregiver Warrior. Tell us about the resources and the services that you offer.
So, I was really blessed in that I took some me time when I was taking care of my parents, and I rode horses with, there's a barn near my parents' house, and I rode horses, and it ended up being like 5 or 6 women, one of whom is like one of my best friends now. And it ended up we were all caregivers. So we would get on the horses and we would walk around and we would like carry on. We'd laugh and cry and just share stories. I mean, it was unbelievable. And the thing that kept coming up for me was, oh my God, they don't tell you this. Oh my God, they don't tell you this. Oh my God, they don't tell, like, and I said, you know what, if I get through this alive, I'm gonna tell you this. I am going. So I sort of started journaling. And I was working full time at the time also. And at the time I had a BlackBerry, believe it or not. And I started journaling. So I started writing, and it hit me that there was a book and that there was a blog, and that I could use social media to get the word out. So I figured, okay, well, I'm going to do this for the caregiver warriors out there. I thought, oh, there it is. I'm going to come up with content and information and help and wisdom and experience and a lot of the mistakes I made, and share them as caregiver warrior with other caregiver warriors so that they can also have a journey that's empowered.
That's awesome.
It is wonderful. Okay, so do you have a website? Is that how people can connect with you? Do you have a Facebook page? Tell us more about the connections that you offer.
Yes. So Caregiver Warrior, you can look me up anywhere, any place. Google's been very nice. They know me now. I have a blog that I write. I'm all over social media as Caregiver Warrior. I have a free book for beginners that you can download from my website. And I have a book coming out, which I'm really excited about. I was asked to do a book for Adams Media, and it's coming out September 6th. Called Self-Care for Caregivers. And it's 140 strategies and tips and mistakes that I've made and information for caregivers. And you can see that on my website, and you can pre-order it. And I'm very excited about that.
That's awesome. A new book. I love it. So what is your website exactly so that we can share a link in our show notes?
Caregiverwarrior.com.
So, Susanne, if you could offer only one piece of advice, which is hard to do, to other caregiver warriors, what would that one piece, that single piece of advice be?
Just do it. Don't worry about doing it perfectly.
That's good life advice.
I think that's good advice for anybody, whether they're a caregiver or not.
I think
so. But certainly for caregivers, that's really, really important to think about, because the truth of the matter is we're not going to do it perfectly. No. And I think sometimes the striving for perfection is what causes some of the burnout.
Absolutely.
I think it is. I think that's what causes some of the burnout. So what really good advice that is to just say, just do it. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. That's really, really good.
That is.
So, Susanne, you have given us such good information today, and we hope that our listeners will take advantage of what you've got to offer on Caregiver Warrior. Any last words that you would like to share with our listeners?
Just that, we are just all walking each other home, and that's a great gift. You're serving other people. Just be as kind to yourself as you are to them. I think that's the most important thing. If you're a caregiver, you're a kindness factory. Make sure that some of that kindness gets thrown in your direction.
Oh, that's a perfect end.
Yeah.
Thank you, Susanne. So glad to talk with you today.
Oh, it's good to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
Well, is she everything that we said she was?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I think so. So passionate about being an advocate, and passionate about sharing sharing the lessons she learned on her caregiving journey.
She's really upfront. I mean, when I hear Susanne's story, what I think is she sort of had a different caregiving journey with her mom and then another one with her dad.
Right.
Her relationship with her mother that wasn't so great before she became her mother's caregiver, right? And a lot of those habits they had in their communication and their interaction were exacerbated when she became her mother's caregiver. And, of course, she came to it so suddenly because her mom and dad hid the fact that her mother was having health issues. and a cognitive decline. So I think of her relationship, her caregiving relationship with her dad, as really a separate sort of journey with its own different lessons, I think.
Right. In her relationship with her mom, she said there was this point during the caregiving journey where she had this kind of gentle response with her mom, and her mom didn't know how to process that. So it began to actually build a better relationship for the two of them.
Yeah, there was a gentleness to the way she responded to her mother, and so her mother responded in kind.
Right.
And they began to build things differently. I think that must have been a really hard lesson to learn and take a lot of discipline and patience on Susanne's part, and probably her mother's part as well. But to break these habits that they had of communicating with each other so roughly.
Right. And she said that by the time that the caregiving journey with her mom was over, they had really reconciled a lot of the issues that they had and had changed the relationship for the better.
And now we are not saying that this is one of those touched by an angel moments, right?
That's right.
Because Susanne will tell you that was work. There was a lot of crappy stuff that happened. She was harsh. Her mother was harsh. The situation was rough. And she learned a lot of hard lessons, and there was a lot of frustration in the learning of everything. But she also says it was one of the best experiences of her life.
Right. And it taught her so much about herself, too, which I thought was another interesting side effect.
Yeah, the self-awareness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nobody really likes that. I don't like it.
This is true.
Damn self-awareness. I hate that about myself. But it's true. And since she made herself vulnerable enough to look at herself that way and realize, I can change this, I need to change this, and actually putting it into action with her mom, that's very admirable. Now she's creating incredible meaning as the caregiver warrior.
Oh, absolutely. So we want to encourage any of you who are listening to this that are caregivers. And I would say whether you're a professional caregiver or a personal caregiver, you should check out the Caregiver Warrior. So you can find her website at caregiverwarrior.com. You can also find her on most of the social media platforms, including Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. She's there. Look for Susanne White and just check out her information and her resources and services. I think you'll come away with a great deal of information and a great deal of help that will be good.
Thanks for listening to The Heart of Hospice. I'm Helen Bauer here with Jerry Finter. Because we know your hospice journey is 24/7, you can always find us at theheartofhospice.com. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, and please take a minute to leave a rating or review on Apple Podcasts.
You can connect with us by just sending us an email to host@theheartofhospice.com. And you can also find us on social media. And remember, no matter who you are or where you are in your hospice journey, you are the heart of hospice.